redundant?
I don't think it's become redundant, but it's an interesting point that you make, that the concept of international law as a whole is under pressure. And actually, that's felt in the UK, because it's often cited as one of the reasons why the UK internally cannot make certain domestic policy decisions, for example, on immigration policy, that it wants to make. So I think the UK is also in its own way grappling with its understanding and the application of international law, to put it modestly. That said, there's no doubt that the Russian invasion of Ukraine was an illegal invasion. There's no doubt that the US says that it has its basis for what it's doing in Iran. I think there's a role for the UK in all of this, which is to be one of the chief mediators between these polarized ambitions around the world. And that's really a positive role that I see for the UK, but obviously it requires quite a lot of leadership, and it requires the boldness to step on to the international stage and to take that role. But I think there's a generational shift coming in politics in the UK. I happen to be one of the younger ones. There are many of my colleagues who are coming through into political leadership in the UK now, and they have quite a different view from the past 20 years of the UK's role. They believe that the UK should be doing more to take leadership on all of these key issues, rather than sitting back. And so, for example, you make the point about the US-UK relationship. In my view, the UK should have been a preeminent negotiator with the US on some of these questions. And it should have used its proximity and its influence with the United States to understand what US policy is, and to try to mediate that around the world. And I think it's done that to some extent, but it's in the UK's national interest, in my view, to be at the forefront when it comes to all of these trends, because, as you rightly say, the world's changing very rapidly, and there are new trends forthcoming, whether in technology or geopolitics, and I think the UK has a lot to offer there.
You spoke about the immigration policy. Almost every country, not just in the Western Hemisphere, even in our country, we're dealing with this issue. We talk about infiltrators, politicians pick it up. It's a very polarizing topic politically. It also is something that citizens are uncomfortable discussing, even at homes or in public spaces. But it's something that makes everybody worried, especially with AI coming in, taking up jobs, the whole idea that foreigners will take up your jobs, or outsiders will take up your jobs, take up your homes. We can't get rentals. These kind of issues will keep happening. How do you, as a young politician, see Britain shaping that?
Well, the immigration policy of India is a matter for the government of India and for the people of India to decide.
No, I meant in your country, how are you shaping it?
Well, I feel the same way, that the immigration policy of the UK is a matter for the UK government to take its view on. I think the issue in the UK has been that there is an anxiety, an understandable and I think in many ways justified anxiety about some forms of immigration that hasn't been properly reflected in policy by the politicians. And there's been a bit of a disconnect between the decision makers and feeling in the wider voter base, the wider electorate, the people of the UK. And I think that gap is going to close, basically, in very short order. And I think that could be very beneficial for the UK, because, as you rightly say, if immigration is a top-tier concern, it can actually be very difficult to get lots of other things done. So you don't really, if you don't have a secure border, if you don't have a clear immigration policy, and you've really thought through as a state what you want and what you don't want from immigration, whether it's economic or otherwise, then it can be very difficult to draw your attention to all the other issues that need solving, because it tends to dominate the political debates, understandably, and it can become a lens through which every other policy is viewed. So I think the quicker the UK resolves what its medium to long-term immigration policy will be in general, the better. The one thing that the UK has struggled with is a continual problem with border security and with the problem of illegal immigration, which is actually a separate question in some ways to its appetite for legal migration. And it's at the top of the agenda, there's no doubt. It's interesting that you say it's also at the top of the agenda in India. I think that's something I hear increasingly when I'm traveling. I don't think it's something that's particular to so-called Western democracies. I think it's an issue now that's actually affecting a lot of states.
Yes, every country is dealing with it now. One question which I want to ask you, which I think you'll have to wear all your three hats: foreign policy, politician, as well as media. And we're talking still about immigration and stuff like that. India's long grappled with this issue that, under the garb is something which is a very sharp comment, but you have these protection of media laws, and under that umbrella, there are some people who do these protests in your country who are seen in India as secessionists and who are promoting secessionism in India. And those protests are quasi-violent. There are people who have attacked the Indian High Commission, burnt the Indian flag, but then it comes under this free speech umbrella in your country. It does harm, at least on the street. Indians do not like the idea, and there's an aggression that Indians have regarding Britain, and it's only because of some elements like this. Is there no way that this can be stemmed in some manner?
I'm certainly familiar with the issue that you're raising. It's something that, again, the domestic internal politics of India are, as an outside observer, like any country in the world, including the UK, they can be complex, and there can be issues in that domestic political picture. I'm afraid my view is that they shouldn't be played out in the streets of the UK. That's my view. Now, notwithstanding the fact that there are important rights in the UK around free speech and the right to protest, which I would always defend, actually, my view is that it's not beneficial for society in general in the UK, and I think this is also something that a lot of younger people are thinking, frankly, for the domestic politics of any country in the world to be played out, for example, in London. I'm sorry, but that's just not what we should be doing anymore. It's not going to be the stage on which every single internecine political issue around the world, of which there are many thousands in every country, London can't be the stage for all of that, I'm afraid. So I think we're going to draw a line on that one soon. There have been some attempts to make sure that those factional issues are not affecting, the kind of everyday peace and stability of the experience in the UK. But it's one of the things I think is very important. That said, it's not for me to take a particular view on any of those issues, because actually I'm a believer that those issues are for Indians to determine. They're not for the British to determine. That said, the security of what's allowed in London and what's allowed in the UK is an issue for the British to determine, in my view.
All right. One question on social media. What is your view about the impact of social media on the population of Britain, on generally what is happening even with the war, and so much of disinformation which is put out there in the social media? Do you feel regulation is the way, or self-regulation, or there's some way to control the amount of disinformation which is out there? Last question, because I think we're running out of time.
Well, it's a happy happenstance that we're both in media, and I find the media economy in India to be completely fascinating, and it's been a wonderful thing at NXT to be around your talented young journalists across all of the channels that are here in India. It's a vibrant media economy, and actually I think the Indian hunger for news is extraordinary. In social media, I can just say a few things that have happened in the past couple of weeks, in fact months. For the first time recently, the number of monthly views or monthly audience for YouTube in the UK exceeded the monthly audience of the BBC as a whole. That's a very big shift for media consumers in the UK. It's now the case that I think 50% or so of the videos that go viral in the UK on YouTube, they look like they have a traditional TV format. So it's almost as if the traditional forum or the traditional setting of a TV news channel is now transposed onto YouTube, and the distribution mechanism has completely changed. And I think that's a technological shift that probably won't reverse.
Do you see an anti-India sentiment in social media or traditional media increasing in Britain, or do you see it balanced?
It's not something I'm happy to say that I've noticed in particular. But the reality is that many of the social media platforms that are most used in Britain, they're not British platforms, they're US platforms, and they're regulated in Britain to an extent, but they're not fully controlled in any sense by the government of the UK. And actually, I'm one of the people who think that that's probably a good thing. There has to be a sensible balance when it comes to regulation. And, you know, if you want my personal view, I think the UK is currently in danger of over-regulating the social media space rather than the opposite problem. The UK has a very long and proud tradition of free media and free speech, and that's a wonderful thing. But I think the thing that hasn't really been understood by the politicians at the moment is that, as we were saying earlier, the platforms have just completely changed. I mean, you know, it's going to be the case that many more consumers are now going to consume news that's basically AI delivered and AI driven. They will want to have conversations with their chatbots to deliver their media consumption. And I was reading the traditional newspapers here this morning, which were, you know, delivered to my hotel room, thinking, I wonder how long it will be before some of those formats are completely revolutionized by AI. It's definitely coming in the UK. And as with everything, a bit like the shift from print to web, it's just about getting the balance right. It's not a technology that can be stopped. And, you know, my view of the media is fundamentally a technology business in lots of ways. It always has been dominated by the medium rather than media. And, you know, what's happening here in India is fascinating because the pace of change and the pace of adoption of new technologies in the media market in India is fascinating. And organizations such as yours and everybody involved in the NXT Summit, I know, are at the absolute forefront of that, delivering for the Indian media consumers. So it's fascinating as a sort of media thinker, I hope, in the UK to come and see how things are working here in India.
Thank you so much for speaking with us. It's been a great conversation. It's been fun, as well as talking about the alternative reality that we are on the bridge of, on the cusp of. Interesting times we live in. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much to both of you for joining us for this inaugural session on day 2 of NXT 2026. Lord Kemsel, thank you for your time. And Smita Prakash, thank you for your moderation. Of course, we know her due to ANI, but as we were saying, it's good to have the face of a person from an agency as well in front of us. All right, let me quickly now switch our segment to Next in People. People-to-people ties are important in building bridges between countries. And in fact, the next panel does have individuals from multiple countries together. We're very happy to discuss the theme of the future of local governance. To call on stage now, member of the House of Representatives from New Zealand, Mr. Tangi Utikere, Member of Parliament. Could we please have you on stage? Mr. Utikere, welcome. Also with us is member of the Riki Kogu, Estonia, Andrei Korobenik Liga. Mr. Korobenik, welcome. Thank you very much for joining us at NXT. Arjuna Sujiva is also with us live. Member of Parliament, Sri Lanka. Mr. Sujiva, thank you for being with us. Good morning. Let's please have you on stage. Also, Dr. Martin Daly, member of the Irish Parliament, joins us as well. Tekadela. Dr. Martin Daly, let's have you on stage as well. Dasho Sange Khandu also joins us this morning. Deputy Speaker of the National Assembly of Bhutan. I warmly welcome you back to the stage of NXT, Dasho Khandu. And this session will be moderated by a very erudite speaker himself, the founder of India Foundation, Sri Shaurya Doval. Sri Doval, I hand the floor over to you now.
Thank you. Good morning, and welcome to all the delegates. Welcome to India. This panel is very short. It's been given 25 minutes, and I think I have a very distinguished panel of 5 people. So I don't know, I'll try and do justice to all of you in terms of the questions I ask of you. But the topic is so complicated that I'll have to give a little bit of context. So I'll try and be as short as possible. But I just need to bring to the attention of the audience that today we are going to talk about the future of local governance. And local governance remains a very important issue for most governments, for most societies, for most economies. In India, for us, India's local governance is empowered by the 73rd and the 74th Constitutional Amendment, which talks about issues like urbanization pressures, fiscal constraints, and digital divides. The 3 big issues that local governance faces in India. Under this government and under our 16th Financial Commission, we have allocated over 4.5 lakh crores towards local governance in projects like the Smart Cities mission. Yet the challenges remain. In India, our biggest challenge is fiscal dependency. Out of the 29 devolved subjects like water supply, sanitation, etc., which are given to local governance, by the fact that local bodies generate 60% of our GDP, they only receive 0.6% of their own revenue, hence relying completely on state grants. So while they are the generators of the productivity, they have no control over their fiscal. They have no fiscal autonomy. The second problem that we have, which we call as the 3 F's devolution gaps. These urban local bodies or gram panchayats and local governance don't have neither the functions, nor the funds, nor the functionaries under their control. That is also with either the state government or the federal government. Then we have these urbanization strains. As India becomes increasingly urbanized, we find that many villages, etc., the local bodies have no jurisdictional authorities over these suburbs. And then, of course, the participation is very low because there is an elite capture of these institutions, and digital exclusion limits the impact of people's participation. So it is in this context, gentlemen, that I will ask you that, are the challenges that are being faced by India, which range from the local body level, from climate change adaptation and resilience to rapid urbanization, to, as I talked about, financial constraints, digital transformation, technology and workforce shortages, and even now cybersecurity and emerging risks. So how does this work in your relative economies and countries would be of great interest to both me and the audience today. So I will start with Mr. Andrei Korobenik from Estonia. And I'd like to ask you, sir, that Estonia is known worldwide for its advanced digital governance system. And it provides Estonia with an experience of how Estonia can help India digitize governance against our 25 million panchayats. So how can Estonia's digital governance model, you think, help countries like India that are trying to deliver digital services at a very large scale?
Yeah, thanks a lot for having us here. Estonia has slightly different issues comparing to India. It's a tiny country, and in rural areas, there is not a lot of people living. So for us, the issue is that the state services are not always there. And what we do, I think, is the challenge for a lot of European countries. We try to help regions to provide the services from the large cities online. So we have online medicine. Every citizen has an access to e-government services. So people in Estonia don't go to physical banks, for example, for, I don't know, 30 years already. So they do everything online. They don't have to file tax declarations on site. They do it online. You can even marry or divorce online. So and you can vote online as well, which is actually pretty convenient because on both local and state elections, more than half of population actually vote using computer or mobile phone instead of going to cast a ballot manually. So that saves a lot of time and effort. But all those issues you mentioned are there. So, for example, local governments don't have enough money. They produce a lot of GDP, but they don't get it back. So what we do, we introduce different types of sort of like resource taxes. So if there is solar panels, wind farms, any other ways of like producing value, then local governments start to get money back. That helps them, to make peace with all those maybe not that nice ways of producing values. Like people don't like wind farms, but if they start earning money from that helps. But of course, the challenges you face are probably pretty common for all the countries in the world. People move to large cities. People don't live in the rural areas anymore, and it's really hard for the state governments to help those areas to, be successful.
And in your own experience in Estonia, what did the government, in your view, did right to allow this adoption of technology and digitization to happen at a quick scale? How did you get scale? Yeah,
it's a bit long story, but in short, we have this underlying infrastructure that is essential, because otherwise you have really a bunch of different fragmented services. We call it X-Road, and it's used by several countries. Finland, for example, is using our system, and India can do it as well. It's free. You just implement it, and all government services start to talk with each other using this system. We never ask for data twice. So if you once submit, for example, your home address, it's there. The other services don't ask for it. And another essential thing is that you have to use some sort of digital ID. So every citizen has to, have something that helps him to log into those services, and that's it. On top of that, you can build whatever, and it works. I know, UK and partially New Zealand as well are really advanced in this. So that's important that you do those steps before you start building services, because otherwise it's going to be a total mess.
Thank you, Mr. Korobenik. My next question is to Dasho Sangye Khandu from Bhutan. Bhutan has a very strong tradition of community-centered governance and environmental protection. Local governments often play a very key role in maintaining this balance between development and environment. How can you explain how does in Bhutan local governments work closely with communities to protect the environment while also ensuring that development is not affected?
Thank you very much. It's all about the responsibility the individual takes. It's not about inside-out approach, but outside-in approach. See, in Bhutan, the Article 22 of the Constitution says the local government should remain all the time apolitical. And His Majesty the King has always stressed that the local government is the nearest government to the people. You see, the people works with the local government day in, day out. They are elected. So no matter whether you go digitized, whether you remain traditional ways of doing things, it's about the accountability. It's about how people can hold the leaders accountable. First thing is the notion that the people should have inculcated in their brain, in their blood, that the environment, socio-economic development, whatever, culture, whatever, is so important for us. So how do we maintain this? It boils down to, see, as an elected individual, it's very difficult to balance it. We're driven by so many interest groups. There are so many people approaching us with certain requests and all, so on and so forth. But ultimately, it boils down to the individual whether to really take a risk and face the people and be able to answer to the people. And people are not willing to really agree to the answer that is baseless. So it is about how we manage the things. Our people in Bhutan are responsible. There should be a self-policing. I think you understood me. A self-policing. No. Individuals are all police. They don't need another policeman to police them.
But so, what if a conflict happens? Sorry. But what if sometimes, as in life, if a conflict happens between development and communities, then how do you balance the two? Who decides and how does it work?
See, there are always a trade-off. So whenever we might have to compromise certain things to achieve something. We have to compromise one thing to achieve another sometime, if it is better. But if it is not doing good, we have to sacrifice it. We have to do it away. But we balance it in a way that, suppose like yesterday during my keynote address, I said, we are constructing so many farm roads all across the society. We want to make sure that all the houses are reached with at least the road access. We have a hydropower coming up, 20,000 megawatts. Of course, it's going to damage so much of trees and environment. But we are equally planting million trees to supplement it, to substitute it. But we are again planting the trees that are better than those trees that we have damaged already. So these are the things how we are balancing. And these are convincing. When we tell this thing to the people, people are really convinced. And people agree to it. And people cooperate. So there is no way out there that there is a controversy between the leader or the decision maker or the electorate. But there are sometimes we, as a leader, as a legislator, might have to take some stringent action, which may not, of course, immediately be absorbed within the people, but definitely people realize later on that this was the right thing that we have done. So these are certain things that, but this is a very difficult question. I think we need quite a lot of time to explain it. If you give me at least an hour, I think I'll be able to explain.
Thank you so much. I wish I had that time.
Because this is I'm talking out of like I was in the public service at the age of 16, and I'm now 50. So it has been almost 34 years of experience. I've seen the world in different perspectives. I've seen the level of development from zero to where we are today. So this is a very complicated question, and there will be so many questions in between, and there will be answers and answers and answers, of course, but we have maintained till today.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It was a very good segue into my next panelist, Mr. Tangi Utikere from New Zealand. New Zealand's, just building on this, New Zealand's own governance framework includes mechanisms that ensure representation and participation of indigenous communities. How can local governance systems, in your experience, better include indigenous and local communities in decision-making?
Namaste, tēnā koe, tēnā tātou katoa, kia ora ana. It's great to be here at NXT Summit 2026 in New Delhi. And New Zealand is a far way away. Our nearest neighbour is 3 hours by plane. So it means that we are somewhat situated somewhere in the world that might seem isolated to some, but it means that we value the relationship with our Indigenous community, with our Māori people, really, really well. The issues that you explained in your introduction are no different, actually, to the issues that we experience in Aotearoa, New Zealand. For us, it's around ensuring that local government works in partnership with central government, despite the healthy tension and otherwise tension that does exist from time to time as well. But when local government is able to focus on the well-beings of a community, and I agree with our colleague from Bhutan around the community and the collective, that's where you can see some real difference and some real change. Focusing on outcomes now, but also into the future around our social opportunities to ensure that our communities are housed, that they're safe, looking at economic opportunities around employment, ensuring that businesses are backed, Indigenous businesses are backed as well, focusing on the environment. And for us, our Indigenous community, our Māori community, have a really strong and special historical link with the environment, with the world around them. And so ensuring that alongside that focus on that cultural sense of well-being as well. Cultural identity is extremely important to us as a nation, given where we are. And it means actually that at a community level, all decisions are local decisions. And so ensuring that we're able to do that in partnership, not just with central government, but with all the different communities of interest is always very, very important. It's something that we have worked on for quite some time, and I have no doubt we'll continue to work in that space into the future.
But Mr. Utikere, it's when as a nation you plan some big, the central government or the federal government plans some big initiatives, how does it build local community participation in it? Sometimes even it maybe go against the cultural preservation of these communities. So either it's building a road or building a big power plant or big infrastructure works that have the potential of disrupting local communities. How does that get reconciled in New Zealand?
Yeah, that's a real live point where in New Zealand there is a huge focus at the moment on the need to lift our game when it comes to national infrastructure, so roads, hospitals, looking at what the building's going to be like for the future. Now the easy option, of course, would be to just railroad a particular piece of infrastructure or kit right through an area without any consideration for the cultural heritage, the cultural value that exists. Now, the approach in New Zealand has been built up over generations, and a lot of the expertise is actually initiated in an oral sense, was passed down from generation to generation. So my take on that is it goes back again to the key value of relationships and how we value communities of interest, and ensuring that when we work through a process that we don't fast-track things, we don't rush through things. Things need to happen. They need to be timely. It's not saying that things need to, you need to apply the brakes on everything all the time. But you do need to take the time to ensure that everyone understands what it is what's sought to be achieved here. And at the end of the day, if you're able to do that in a process, that it ensures that everyone's on board, that you are able to end up with a project that is, unique and special. If I can think of an infrastructure piece of kit in my own area in Palmerston North, where it's just a highway that was proposed, but working with local iwi, with the local Indigenous community, we ended up with a far superior piece of road experience that is something that's pretty spectacular. So it is fundamentally about partnerships and understanding.
Thank you very much. My next question is to Dr. Martin Daly from Ireland. Sir, in Ireland, local governments also play a very important role in supporting the regional economic development. How do you think local governments, from your own experience, contribute to economic growth and a balanced regional development? And what role can they play proactively in shaping outcomes of not just communities, but in sync of that of the entire nation? What has been your experience in Ireland?
Ireland has a particular experience in that Dublin is our maiden capital city and it dominates the country. 1.5 million of the people live there out of a population of 5 million people. Our west coast is very undeveloped. I just want to go back to a principle here. You know, this goes to the heart of democracy, involving people at local level in decision making. And there's a natural tension between central government and local government, and it goes in cycles. So we inherited a very centralised system when we gained independence 100 years ago from the British, and some of that culture is still there, that centralisation, and we've tried to break away from it. And of course, there was more decision-making at local level 20 years ago. A number of planning scandals happened, and central government took that back or divested it to non-elected officials who are local. And our elected officials have less say in what's going on. Also the creation of, for example, water utilities board and an electricity board, which are unelected and not answerable to elected officials except at national level. And that is a real difficulty. We've also relied on the European Union to encourage regionalisation and subsidiarity in terms of investing in regions, and we've gained a lot from that. But coming back to that, for example, for a country of 5 million people, we have a 2% population growth year on year, a big growth in our economy, not enough housing, not enough water and wastewater infrastructure, not enough electricity infrastructure. We're about to spend 7.5 billion euros on wastewater treatment plants for that population in the next 5 years, 13.5 billion euros on our electricity network. But the problem is we have difficulties delivering that infrastructure quickly. So there's a reform of our planning laws going on at the moment. There's also a reform of critical infrastructure delivery happening at government level. But I have to say, we do need to get back where we give locally elected officials more say in what's going on locally, because that disconnect is not just an Irish issue, it's an issue internationally, where people feel disconnected from the political system. Many working people feel underrepresented, and then that allows a vacuum at the extremes for people who come in and give simplistic solutions for what are complex problems. So we really do need to involve and empower people locally to be involved in that decision making. And in order to do that, you've got to give them the funding to do that, the budgets to do that. But we have an issue in Ireland at the moment where we have unelected quangos delivering major utilities which are unanswerable to elected politicians like myself. And politicians did that to themselves maybe 20 years ago because of particular delivery issues. And I think we need to go back to empowering local politicians, empowering local people. We have a very good local electoral system to our local authorities, and it is easy to get on a ballot paper to get elected, but we need to give real power to local politicians. And I think that disconnect we have to address. It's not just an Irish issue. It's an emerging issue where people feel disconnected from politics, don't feel represented, and that creates a vacuum for political extremes.
Thank you. You mentioned very interestingly that, you also, like us in India, inherited a system from the British, which was over-centralized because it had only one objective of revenue extraction, right?
Control.
So, so how did in your own experience in Ireland, if you could help, if you can think of one or two big things that you were able to do to sort of reverse that. One, of course, happens through democracy, and but any specific actions that Ireland took over the last, 75 or 880 years?
I would say this about our politics. It's very local. I'm a national politician, but I do 2 or 3 local clinics every week where I sit in my constituency and people come in with all sorts of problems, seeking health services, housing, seeking access to special additional educational needs, looking for the rights for people who are living, say, with a disability. So I feel very connected. I'm a GP, I live in my constituency, and so I'm very easily accessible. And I think that is one of the strengths of our politics in Ireland, is that most of our national politicians live in their communities, are elected out of their communities, and are connected to their communities. And that's extremely important, and that doesn't happen in every jurisdiction. So I think that's one, I need to emphasize that strength. But on the other side of it, I do feel that we have politicians have divested themselves of accountability for major things like housing, infrastructural development like wastewater treatment, electricity and energy. And we need to get back to being accountable, but also then empowering local politicians, because you can't be accountable unless you've been empowered to make the decision in the first place.
Thank you. Thank you. And then I will come to my final panelist, Honorable Arjuna Sujiva from Sri Lanka. Sir, like India, Sri Lanka and many other developing countries face this challenge of local governments, again, depending heavily on national grants. You know, a mismatch between their generation of revenue and yet no fiscal autonomy. How do you think, from Sri Lanka's experience, local governments can strengthen their own revenue sources and become more financially sustainable?
Well, I think they have to be innovative. Basically, it's the local government, they manage the streets, wastage, public health. So from birth to your death, the basics are handled by the local government. But as you say, we don't have a system for the local government to be progressive, and they don't work much on development. So they have to think out of the box. So being a leader of a constituency, and what I would always tell them is to be innovative. For them to find their own methods of doing business, to make it to the private sector, and as much as possible, because the system doesn't allow them to get any other grants from the government. It's a basic limitation that they have. So they have to think out of the box, and fiscally, I don't know whether we are allowed to do that, but we have to think of new innovations, how they can get involved in the development process, so they can get some money out of that as well. Especially one area that they could concentrate, actually, waste management. We started in certain areas to collect the waste and manufacture electricity out of it. So, but that even those income goes to the central government. So it's not allocated to the local government. So they find it difficult to get out of their comfort zone, but we have to think of innovative ways to do that. It's not easy.
Thank you very much. You know, I'm conscious of the time, so I want to give each of my panelists 1 minute each before we wind up. But I want to open a question to you all. And particularly from us, from Indian context, you've come all the way to India. And, you know, for India, it's very important to learn from your experiences. You know, India, today we have a population of about 1.4 billion people. We have add in about 3,000 plus, or maybe 3,000 to 3,500 public representatives between the federal and the state governments. But we have a bureaucracy of about 30 million people, right? So we have a big challenge with local governance, because as the democracy wants to push local governments, we have to deliver to 1.4 billion people, but there is a mismatch between 3,000 people and a 30 million structure that supports it. I'd be very interested, and give you all 1 minute each, from your perspective, and I know each country is different, what do you think, from your country, there's that one unique example that could be of relevance, that you think you could be very proud of in terms of the local governance that you have been able to achieve in them? So may I start with the panelists at the extreme left, and we'll just go one by one.
From the Constitution, if I read, it is to facilitate the direct participation of the people in the development and management of their own social, economic, and environmental well-being. First thing. That's the very important thing. Okay, now the notion of having the local government separately is something very big. But we need to give a financial independence. But at the same time, I should be very proud of saying that in our society, our people are so responsible. They can hold we have given the government, the central government have given the financial independence to the local government. But it is, again, the people who should hold the leader accountable and make the leader make use of the funds allocated for them to the optimum utility for the benefit of the people. So I think it boils down to what sort of leaders, local leaders, they are going to elect and to what extent they can hold accountable. So I think that it boils down to the same thing again.
Thank you.
That's my final say.
I would say while maintain the parameters of efficiency, good governance, accountability, I think you must give them autonomy for the local government to grow, for them to get into business, to privatize, and set up laws so they can be financially self-sufficient. I would not always think that the central government should always pump money. So the local governments would be, they'll have the autonomy to decide for themselves, and for them also to make sure that they also have a system to make some money and be more self-sufficient. And that's what I would think, because the basics are quite in place at the moment. So you have to think, I think, far ahead how they can improve the other areas in the constituency.
Dr. Martin Daly.
I suppose there's this tension about public service and private service and productivity. I think sometimes there's a sense amongst the public that public service is less productive than the private sector. Now, they're different creatures, but we must ensure that if we invest in our local government, that it must be productive. So we need to use digitalization, AI, and that to improve efficiency. But we need to do that. One of our big organisations, our health organisations that run our public health services, has had an increase over the last 5 years, because the economy's been doing well, of 45% in personnel, and yet we've invested as a government very heavily in AI and digitalisation. We're not seeing the productivity, and that's the challenge, because then local government falls into disrepute. So if we're going to invest money, it's got to be into efficient, representative local government, but we have to see returns for that investment, and it must be efficient and it must deliver for people in local areas.
Thank you.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think the future is that central government can help local governments to help people directly. So currently in Estonia it's pretty easy to get online services, but what we are missing is that when someone is getting issues, like maybe is running out of money, have trouble with education and so on, in the future local government can actually prevent this by offering help in advance when things are still okay but are going south. Then local government could intervene using AI instruments. Now it's not there, but I think it's like 2 or 3 years in the future. And the second thing is certainly trust. People actually have to feel that the local government is there. We try to achieve that with different direct democracy instruments. People can easily make petitions to the local government. We need 1% of signatures, and that happens online. So we have a lot of initiatives coming from people to the local city councils using this. And we also have participatory badges where people can offer ideas, and those ideas that win by the population vote, they are funded with the local government budgets. It helps people to understand that they are actually part of the process, and it works. So if you vote for, I don't know, local whatever school extension, and it's there in a couple of years, then you feel that it's your thing. The local government works for you, and I think the trust is the most important factor in the nowadays world, because people sometimes feel that local government and central government are really far away.
Thank you.
And I think for us it's also about that sense of transparency, and certainly using online digital AI platforms is a huge part of that. But fundamentally I also think it's about ensuring that local government and central government don't see each other as competitors but work together. There seems to be often a lot of blame that goes on between local and central government. The people that lose at the end of the day are the communities that we're all elected to serve.
Thank you. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for such a lovely panel, and thank you for your time. It was lovely to have you on this. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much to all of you who were discussing, of course, the future of local governance there in that panel discussion. All right, a quick photo op, and then we will move on to our first keynote address of the day. We are, of course, continuing this segment on Next in People. Rather, we are, of course, switching that a bit. We're now going to be talking about Next in Civilization. And in this segment of Next in Civilization, to give an address on the Gelufu model, we have with us Senior Communications Officer of Gelufu Mindfulness City Authority from Bhutan. In fact, Sherup Dorji is with us. Sherup Dorji, many thanks for joining us. Let's have a round of applause, please, for our next speaker at NXT 2026.
I'll be honest, if I knew my picture would be put up on the screen like that, I would have sent a better picture. Dignitaries, ladies and gentlemen, first of all, I would like to convey the warm greetings and best wishes of His Majesty King Jigme of Bhutan. Good morning, Kuzampolo, everyone. I want to thank the organizers for giving me this opportunity to present a special project emanating from the Himalayas. Gelufu Mindfulness City is GMC in short, is a royal vision of His Majesty King Jigme Gesar Namgyal Wangchuck of Bhutan, and conceived under the direct leadership of His Majesty the King. So in the course of my presentation, I will I hope to convey at least what GMC stands for, and more importantly, the tremendous opportunities it holds. Before I dive into what GMC is, perhaps I want to take a minute to talk about my country, Bhutan. Okay, so this is what we tell people, foreigners, and this is how foreigners see Bhutan. Young, handsome king, beautiful queen, tradition, culture, landscape, and all of it. Bhutan's image and reputation is very much steeped in our history, in our culture and heritage. Bhutan is basically a cultural hub. We are one in 10 countries which has never been colonized in the world, and it is also home to gross national happiness. It is our socio-economic development philosophy where we prioritize happiness over gross domestic product for our people, and it remains as one of the world's most pristine biodiversity hotspots. But this is where GMC comes in. This is where we tell the world that Bhutan is young and bold and dynamic, innovative, entrepreneurial. And this is where the story of Gyelephu Mindfulness City comes in. As you can see, Bhutan is strategically located in the center of a large land economic corridor connecting the Middle East, South Asia, and Southeast Asia. Now, if you calculate the population in this area, India, China, and the Indian subcontinent, the population comes to around 3.3 billion people, which translates to 45% of the global population. So, GMC's, the Gyelephu Mindfulness City's catchment area is almost half of the world's population. And we want to leverage this geographic and economic opportunities that we foresee for this region. And we want to attract investors, we want to attract businesses, and we want to attract people to live in GMC, be residents of GMC, while preserving Bhutan's unique assets. So, see, in an ever-changing world underpinned by geographical uncertainty, technology and economic progress, climate change, and all other macro challenges, Bhutan as a country now stands at an inflection point. So for a small country like Bhutan to survive, His Majesty King Jigme realizes that we must harness our strengths and demonstrate the boldness and dynamic spirit to ensure we create new economic pathways. And this is where GMC comes in. This realization resulted in this novel, radical, innovative plan in Gyelephu Mindfulness City. It's a special administrative region that we have created. Now, how do we go about doing this? We go about doing this through the diamond strategy as envisioned by His Majesty the King. The vision allows for a one country, two systems model through the establishment of, like I said earlier, special administrative region. So what happens is, for the first 20 years, Bhutan and GMC will develop independently with GMC having a distinct governance framework. And 20 years after the first 20 years, the convergence begins where GMC will gradually reintegrate with the rest of Bhutan, culminating in this unified national system, one country with one system. So what happens is this allows GMC to be catalyst for reform, and ensures Bhutan modernizes in a structured manner while safeguarding our values and our traditions. Like I said earlier, GMC is a special administrative region. What that allows is it makes us a highly autonomous region where we are equipped with unique sovereign instruments. GMC authority will have legislative, executive, and judicial powers to customize policies that foster a highly competitive business environment at the Gyelephu Mindfulness City. Now, what a special administrative region entails, what this legislative, executive, and judiciary autonomy entails is that it gives us it means that the Prime Minister of Bhutan, for that matter, the Parliament of Bhutan, the judiciary of Bhutan will not have any say in how things are done, how regulations are set, how works are being done in Gyelephu Mindfulness City. So now, as you can see, GMC has adopted Singaporean common law for its corporate, commercial, and company governance matters, and the Abu Dhabi global market regulations for its financial services matters. What that allows is it provides investors familiarity, confidence, and assurance, and this business environment that is known throughout the world. So at GMC, we want to be fast, we want to be dynamic, we want to be entrepreneurial, and enact all these progressive policies, progressive legislation, processes, and systems. Think of GMC as this ultimate sandbox where as an ultimate sandbox, as an economic engine, a launchpad, and this vibrant gateway for the world to engage with South Asia and vice versa. As for those of you all who are familiar with the geography of Bhutan, Gelfu Mindfulness City currently sits in the south-central part of the country. We are currently at 2,600 square kilometer demarcation, but we are going to over 4,000 square kilometers, which roughly is 5 times the size of Singapore. It is, as I said, situated in the southern foothills of Bhutan. We have started construction of an international airport, which is expected to be complete by December 2029. The airport is being built by Changi Group from Singapore, one of the best airports in the world. And one of our co-CEOs, Mr. Lee, was the CEO of Changi Group, Changi Airport, for 10 years. So he is personally involved in the construction of the airport. And we're also connecting the nearest Indian city railway of Kokraja with a railway link to Gelfu. The government of India has been kind enough to set aside 40 billion rupees to construct the railway link between the two cities as well. And as Bhutan transforms and as Bhutan develops, we plan to invest to build over 25,000 megawatts of hydro, solar, geothermal, wind, and other renewable sources of energy. Now, to the economic engine behind the Gelfu Mindfulness City, we are focusing on 8 core industries, which are spirituality, health and wellness, education and knowledge, agritech and forestry. Then we have green energy and tech industries. Then we have finance and digital assets, and aviation and logistics. So in the interest of time, I will focus on finance and digital assets and aviations and logistics. So at GMC, we want to be a leader in financial and digital assets, including the crypto industry, including the digital banking systems, innovation, and we want to integrate these banking systems, digital banking system across crypto markets and real-world asset tokenization. For example, we have already launched a gold digital token known as TER. TER in Bhutanese directly translates to treasure. So you can go to the website of TER and already start buying fractionalized gold as gold token, which is backed by physical gold. I can see the time is up, but I'll just quickly take a few more minutes. And finally, the Gelfu International Airport is also a transformative vision, transformative project which is central to the Gelfu Mindfulness City vision. The airport has already won 2 international awards, the Wholesome Foundation Awards, which recognized Gelfu International Airport design for its sustainable design and construction. It has also won the Future Project of the Year award at the World Architecture Festival last year. So we've already bagged 2 prestigious awards. And if you look at the picture, the airport will feature glue lamp timber technology with modular structure so that we can easily add on or remove the structures as and when needed. The rooftop of the airport will be fitted with solar power so that we minimize our carbon footprint. Basically, the airport itself aligns with GMC's and Bhutan's commitment to remain carbon negative and set this new benchmark for eco-friendly aviation infrastructure, the practice that we are starting to see globally. The airport is not just functioning, it's not just for landing and taking off and taking a plane and go to someplace else. It is deeply spiritual. Gelfu Mindfulness City's international airport will be deeply spiritual. It will weave traditional Bhutanese arts, carpentry, carving, painting, and weaving. All of these things will be integrated throughout the airport structure. It will have spaces for yoga, for meditation, for sound healing exercises to create this meaningful, mindfulness-driven travel experience, which is truly unique to Bhutan. And the design itself ensures that every traveler feel immersed in Bhutanese culture right from the moment they arrive until the moment that they leave Bhutan. Now, this is one picture that we took during the construction of the Gelfu International Airport. When the airport construction was announced, His Majesty the King told the Bhutanese citizen that he himself will come and work at the airport, not just work, but he'll also bring his wife, the Queen. He'll also bring over his children, the prince and princesses, to work at the airport. And this is exactly what we saw. And just recently, in February, His Majesty brought along all the royal family to contribute voluntary manual work at the airport to work together with the people of Bhutan. Like I said, the airport will be completed in December 2029. These are some of the pictures of His Majesty, the King and the royal family engaging in voluntary manual work contribution at the airport construction site. And they really came down to the airport construction site to really work, not just for photo opportunities. And the city will seamlessly integrate all the urban spaces with nature and wildlife. We have also identified biological corridors for the Asian elephants to some of the areas in the city landscape, city infrastructure itself has been identified as biological corridors for the elephants. Part of the biological corridor is we're also now making watering holes, salt-licking areas for the wildlife so that we coexist with nature as the city expands. And you can also see the design of the city will ensure that it embodies Bhutanese values, mindfulness, and futuristic design. Right, that is it. When the airport opens in December 2029, I invite you all to be on the first planes to land in Gelfu International Airport. I invite all of you to explore investment opportunities in GMC, to come live in GMC, and to come work in GMC. I invite you all to connect with us, to connect GMC to people in your network who would like to know about and invest in GMC, to let your contacts in people or in the media houses back in your home country to know more about GMC and write about GMC. And I invite you all to come visit GMC now and be an early witness to a new, sustainable, and mindfulness city that is being built. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you for listening. Kadin Shela.
Thank you so much, Sherub Dorji, for your presentation there, and of course, invite as well to our NXT Summit attendees. Okay, let's switch our focus now to India, Australia once again. For next in India, Australia, we have now with us the representative of Australia in India, the High Commissioner himself, for a keynote address, His Excellency Philip Green. OM, could I please have you on stage, High Commissioner of Australia to India. Let's welcome him with a round of applause, please, ladies and gentlemen.
Well, thank you. Good morning, namaskar. Distinguished guests, dear friends, it's a great pleasure to be here on this key podium. Let me start with a simple proposition. You don't need to be a security policy expert to know that our contemporary world is sharper and more contested. More people are displaced. More people are hungry, and there is more conflict, not least the perilous situation in the Middle East, on top of an illegal and immoral war waged by Russia in Ukraine. We live in a rapidly changing world. A world where the major powers more frequently flex their muscles through military action, economic coercion, and cyber attack. Relatedly, we are experiencing an increasingly challenged world order. The change in the landscape is permanent. The disruption, the contest is permanent. In these uncertain times, reliability is a virtue. No longer is reliability a given. Reliability achieves a greater salience in a world that is disrupted. And it's on the subject of reliability that I want to speak to you today. I've been a diplomat for 40 years. During that time, I would have identified a number of characteristics of Australian diplomacy: active, problem-solving, creative, innovative. And Australian diplomacy still is these things. But in a different global context, being reliable is a virtue, and a more salient one. It's a virtue that has implications for all our important partners, for those closest to us, our family in the Southwest Pacific, for our partners in Southeast Asia, where respect for the rule of law has never been important, and our shared economic security and our prosperity, and for India, which has more regional and global agency than many of our other partners, but which also, I confidently identify, values reliability in its partners. India is a leading power in the region and the world, and Australia is a proud middle power. The world we want today, and the world that we want to inherit, to our children to inherit, is not only a matter for the great powers. Middle powers must be active and exercise their agency to secure a strategic balance, even as the majors more often and more intensively express their influence. We want a region of balance, a region where no country dominates and no country is dominated. Against this background, the Australia-India partnership has never been more consequential, nor has the Australia-India partnership ever been in such good shape to engage in constructive regional diplomacy. To put it simply, no other Australian foreign partnership has come so far and so fast as Australia's relationship with India has over the past 5 years. That's not happened by accident. There are three key drivers that impel our partnership. One, our increasing strategic alignment, the convergence of our security interests and actions. Two, our economic complementarity, which has been potentiated as both countries seek greater diversification and as India pursues greater economic openness. And three, the human dimension of our partnership that has more salience now as the Indian population of Australia tops 1 million. But despite these tailwinds, as the tectonic plates shift, we cannot afford to stand easy. In these uncertain times, we need to work even more closely together. We need to sweat these three drivers and make them work harder for us. Allow me to explore these three drivers of our relationship in turn and demonstrate how we can use them to greater strategic benefit. First, our strategic convergence. The Indo-Pacific, our region where both India and Australia reside, is the world's future, it's where the world is being shaped, and it's where we have most on the line. It's also where we can have most effect. Our relationship is crucial for the region. In fact, I'd go as far to say as that we have an overriding responsibility as middle powers to support peace, stability, and prosperity in the Indo-Pacific. We can help build a region we want, a region in balance, where sovereignty is respected. Australia and India are using all the tools at our disposal to do so, working bilaterally, through the Quad and other minilaterals, and through regional institutions. We have increased our security and intelligence cooperation. Just looking at defence, the frequency of our military exercises has tripled over the past 10 years. India is now one of our very few top-tier defence partners.